I'm talking to Shaq 2 weeks ago. We were at the event, and Shaq's at the MGM Grand Arena. We're having a conversation. And I said, so tell me about your upbringing, your relationship, values, and principles that your dad taught you. And he says, my dad would tell me, if you listen to me, I'll make you the most dominant big man of all time. So your dad told you that. He told me that. Okay, what else? And all these other stories you hear about with Shaq and his dad. You know, his dad would say, finish this. He was a drill sergeant, so everything was yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. He had that kind of a dad, very much of a disciplinarian, right? Who raised him. What are some stories with your pops? You know, you obviously a lot of it has been heard, but what are some stories about your dad on how he raised you and Tristan?
Yeah, my father was, I believe, the best father on the planet. I think that every son should hopefully think the same of their father. I think a father's role is to be a superhero. I think a father's role is to, I think one of the big mistakes in modern society is that people think that a father should be a second mother, and I disagree. I think a father should be a superhero. And sometimes a superhero needs to go do superhero things. My father wasn't always home. He was away. But when he came home with a story. And I think that the quality of his presence was more important than the quantity of his presence. He raised us with absolute duty to our last name. He made it very, very clear for a very long time that being a Tate means something and that you have to live an honorable life and a life that's true to God because of that. And also his expectations to us were exceptionally high because we were Tates. When I did something fantastic, when I became state chess champion at age of 5, or when I did exceptionally well my SATs, he moved me up 2 grades, etc. I didn't come home and say, Dad, I did this. And him go, wow, good job. He was like, well, you're a Tate. Duh. Well, who are you competing against? I was like, well, the other kids in school. Who are they? Don't know. Exactly. You're a Tate, of course. So he always had this huge expectation of us and made it clear that the last name means something and we have to stay true to it. And I think that this is kind of something that's missing from modern society. When you have a duty to your bloodline and a duty to your ancestors, that is something which you carry with yourself away from cameras and away from the eyes of the outside world. So it's been something that's been massively beneficial to me. Even when I went through hard times in my life, I understood that being a Tate prevented me from doing anything that's detrimental to myself. Even basic things. We talked about, let's say, heartbreak. If I had my heart broken when I was young, instead of chasing a girl and embarrassing myself, I could sit in my room alone and think, I'm a Tate. I can't do that. I can't. That's not how Tates act. Love you very much. Goodbye. And I missed her with all my heart, but that was the game. She let her go fuck someone else and just be heartbroken a while and get over it because I felt a duty to my last name. So what he did exceptionally well was instill duty to the bloodline and duty to the ancestors. We understood who my family were, understood where we came from, knew who my grandfather was, my great-grandfather was, etc. And he always had very, very high expectations of me. And it's often interesting. People say, you know, if you have too high expectations on kids, it's bad for them, da-da-da. I can only talk from my personal experience. The fact that such high expectations were held for me were a massive benefit to me. My father was a disciplinarian. He was also in the Air Force. If I fucked up, he hit me. He never beat me. He never abused me. But there was certainly a realm in which if I fucked up, I get slapped. It only happened twice maybe, ever. But I knew it was an option.
Your father's only hit you twice.
Twice in my life, yeah. And I say this because I said this on Twitter when I had a Twitter account. Someone was saying that hitting kids is bad. And I said, yeah, I understand. You can't abuse kids. It's a fine line. I know it's a very nuanced, detailed argument. But in the real world, there are lines that if you cross, violence appears. If I get in your face as a man and start running my mouth, sooner or later, it becomes physical. That's the real world. So as an upbringing of a child, I think there should be lines that if they're crossed, violence appears. I don't see anything wrong with that. I was never abused in any way, but if I really fucked up, and both times now in hindsight, I fucked up massive. And I learned. And I was taught, oh shit, that's a line. Mm-hmm. And I think especially with young men, if there's never going to be a physical line, what line is there? Especially with young, rebellious men. I don't know. But maybe that shaped my mindset for a long time because I always understood there are lines that if you cross, things become physical. And I've always kept that in mind for how I conduct myself. I say this all the time. Once again, I said this in YouTube videos. I don't argue with people. If I get in a disagreement on the street, I don't argue. I don't, hey, bro, you parked. That's not who I am. I'm like, okay, bro, leave it. I leave it to the last second until I feel like there's no other choice, and then it's pure violence. Because I don't see the point in arguing. That's feminine to me, a verbal argument. Like, I try my very best to de-escalate because you never know who you're fucking with, and you never know if they want to go to jail. But there's a line, and it gets to that line where that's the only possible repercussion. That's all that can happen. And I try very hard to stay away from that line. but I've always been very aware that line is there. And that served me very, very well in my life. The morgue and the prison, both of them are full of egos. And because I know I can handle myself, I'm the number one guy to talk down a fight. But once I realized that talking ain't going to work, I'm the complete opposite. And I think that was taught by my father.
Wow.
That's how I was taught.
If you enjoyed this video and you want to watch the entire podcast, click over here. And if you want to be connected with experts, influencers such as Kiyosaki, Tate, Connolly, Paul Menteri, myself, and others, download the app Minect, where you get a chance to connect with these folks by the minute. You get to buy the minute or have FaceTimes with them, 15 minutes, ask them any questions you may want to have. Download the app Minect and start connecting with influencers and experts today.